So I wanted to share something that I like to call "We Got That from Graham." I'm sure everyone here has memories much like mine about Graham. They're good memories, something that we'll always have to cherish. It isn't often in our lives that we come across someone so special that that person stays with you forever. Graham was that kind of person. As we look back on our memories of her, I like to think that she has left her legacy in us and through us, either in the examples she set for us, through the things we learned from her, or through the qualities some of us have inherited from her. Sometimes these things will be subtle, but when you see them in yourselves, or in your children, or in your significant other, you'll just know we got that from Graham. If any of you ever lived with Graham for any period of time or visited her home in Mapleton Depot, you know that keeping a tidy house was probably not the top on the list of her priorities. It may not have even been a second, third, or fourth priority, but that was okay with Graham. I used to tease Graham and say that she and I, we didn't have the clean gene. You see, her mother, my mom, kept a very clean house, and my mom, Donna, she does too. But Graham and I, on the other hand, well, let's just say that putting things away isn't our strong suit. And my theory was that the clean gene skipped a generation. She always got a kick out of that. So the next time you find yourself, your house getting a little messy or cluttered, or you notice that in your spouse, Chris, just know that we got that from Graham. One lesson we all learned from Graham was to be kind to others, give back to our community, and contribute to the greater good. She taught us our manners, to say please and thank you, and treat everyone with respect. She was always that friendly, welcoming smile to the kids at Shirley Township Elementary School, greeting them with their lunch tickets in the morning. She did tireless fundraising for local organizations. So when you find yourself being polite, doing a kind deed for someone else, or giving back to your community, just know that you got that from Graham. It's no surprise that a few of us have inherited our petiteness from Graham. For some of us, Lisa and myself, we also inherited the big personalities to help us compensate for our size. For those of you who aren't quite so short, you might not know that there's something interesting about being vertically challenged, and that's that we just don't really realize how small we are. We think we're regular like everyone else. I'm sure some of you fishers can relate to this. You just don't feel short. Graham was that way too, tiny yet mighty. She never let her size diminish her personality. So the next time you see yourself in a picture next to people of average height, and you go, wow, am I really that small? I don't feel that short. You'll know you got that from Graham. Speaking of big personalities, when I describe my Graham to people who don't know her, I find myself using words like feisty, spitfire, and maybe a little stubborn. If Graham had an opinion about something, you knew it. If Graham thought someone was out of line or doing something wrong, you knew it. And if Graham thought you should be doing something in a different way, insert grandchild's name, you better eat all that food on your plate, there are children starving. You knew it. Graham's feistiness is probably one of my favorite things that I inherited from her, and one of the things that I'm most honored to be connected to her by. When my friends call me a spitfire or spunky, or I'm being a little stubborn and bullheaded with Chris, we just know I got that from Graham. But one of the things that comes with this fiery nature of Graham's is also a strong sense of perseverance, hard work, and grit. When you think about that young woman with 4 children, 3 of them under the age of 13, who lost her husband at such a young age, and she worked hard to raise a family on her own. That woman who only a few years later suffered another great loss with Raymond, the man that she was trying to rebuild her life with. She picked herself up by her bootstraps and she kept on going, working at the elementary school during the day and waitressing at Top's Diner at night to raise her family and do right by her kids. So when life hits you hard, or when things seem almost impossible to get through, and there's that little fire in you, and you get up and you keep going, you just know you got that from Another memory about Graham that really makes me chuckle is her driving. For those of you who aren't old enough to remember, Graham liked to drive. She was an independent woman who would zip around Mapleton and zip around Mount Union, out and about and always on the go. She also loved zipping over to Lock Haven to visit my mom and dad, or down to South Jersey to visit Lisa and Eugene and their family. But by zipping, I mean zooming. You see, Graham had a lead foot and a tendency to drive a little fast. In fact, a few years before I became of driving age, Graham had gotten herself so many speeding tickets and points that she had to retake her driving test. I remember helping her study for it and testing her on the questions from the manual. She passed, if you're wondering. So whenever you find yourself putting the pedal to the metal, and zipping around a little faster than you should, you'll know you got that from Graham. Appreciating the simple things in life is something that Graham knew how to do well. Whether it was sitting on her back patio and drinking a cold Budweiser on a summer evening with her dog, Sam, Ginger, or Abby, depending on the decade. Or people watching at the mall or outlets while the rest of us shopaholics bought stuff. Or perhaps it was enjoying the soothing clicks of the needles as she knitted a scarf or a sweater for one of us. Or indulging in a purchase on QVC, or an episode of Dancing with the Stars. It didn't take much to make Graham happy. She knew how to enjoy the simple things in life. So when you find yourself enjoying that cold bud, or watching the sunset with your dog, and you think life is pretty good, you got that from Graham. The final quality and memory about Graham that we can all relate to is her ever-present desire to have her family together. Whether it was the incessant questions like, are you coming to the family reunion? Or are you coming home for Christmas? Graham absolutely loved having everyone together. She loved when we all shared a meal at Thanksgiving and raved about her pickled eggs. She relished in the summers when we all got together for yard sales at Mom and Dad's old house, and she got to be the cashier and count all the money. And most recently, at Jean and Danielle's wedding, you could see the joy in her face as she sat back and watched her family celebrate and dance. So when you find yourself wanting nothing more than to be surrounded by your family and those that you love, you just know you got that from Graham. In sum, you all got something from Graham, and it's most recognizable in her great-grandchildren and her grandchildren. Lyndall's silly orneriness, she got that from Graham. Lainey's kindness and care for her pets, she loves all of her cats, she got that from Graham. Jonna's kindness and care to others in her work as a nurse, she gets that from Graham. Laura's work ethic and grit as she perseveres through law school, she gets that from Graham. Elisa's love for young children and her career as an elementary school teacher, that's Graham. Gene's service to humanity and the greater good through his work in law enforcement, that's Graham and him. And Steve's unconditional love for his family, that's from Graham. There will be times in our lives when situations will arise where we will want so much to talk with her, be with her, or ask her for advice. And I hope that when those times come, we can begin to look to each other and find that part of Graham that lives in each of us.